All right. Hello. Happy Thursday, everybody. It's Tony. And we are going to talk about the day the music died. Well, what does that mean? Well, I'll get into that later. I hate these long intros. We're going to sing a song. It's a long song, so, you know, if you got something better to do, let it play in the background. And you can always listen to it later. Of course, it might help if I put these in order. Verse 3, verse 4, got to be verse 2. That's the last one. I think I've got this right. This is American Pie by McLean. This song was released back in the olden times, back in like 1971, I think. So I think we're all going. Hey Anna, how are you? Thank you. Good to see you. Come on, join us here if you want. All right, we're all here. I don't know if Anna's going to join us, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Long, long time ago, I can still remember how the music used to make me smile. And I know if I had the chance that I could make those people dance, and maybe they'd be happy for a while. But February made me shiver. With every paper I deliver, bad news on the doorstep. Couldn't take one more step. Well, I can't remember if I cried when I read about his widow bride. Well, something touched me deep inside the day the music died. So bye-bye, Miss American Pie. I drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye and singing, this'll be the day that I die. Oh, this'll be the day that I die. Did you write the book of love, and do you have faith in God above? If the Bible tells you so. And do you believe in a rock and roll? Can music save your mortal soul? And can you teach me how to dance real slow? Well, I know that you're in love with him, 'cause I saw you dancing in the gym. You both kicked off your shoes. Man, I did the blues. I was a lonely teenage bronking bug with a pink carnation and a pickup truck. But I knew I was out of love the day the music died. Started singing bye-bye, Miss American Pie. I drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye and singing, this'll be the day that I die. Yeah, this'll be the day that I die. 10 years we've been on our own, and moss grows fat on a rolling stone. But that's not how it used to be. When the jester sang for the king and queen in a coat he borrowed from James Dean, and a voice that came from you and me. And while the king was looking down, the jester stole his thorny crown. The courtroom was a jam. The verdict was returned, and while Lennon read a book on Mars, the quartet and we sang dirges in the dark of day. The music died. We were singing bye bye, Miss American Pie. Drove a Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. The good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye and singing, this will be the day that I die. Well, this will be the day that I die. Helter-skelter in a summer swelter, the birds flew off with a fallout shelter. 8 miles high and falling fast. Well, it landed foul on the grass. The players tried for a forward pass with the chestnut on the sidelines in a cast. Now at halftime there was sweet perfume while sergeants played a marching tune. We all got up to dance. Never got that chance, 'cause the players tried to take the field and the marching band refused to yield. Did you recall what was the feel of the day? The music died. Started singing bye bye, Miss American Pie. I drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye and singing, this will be the day that I die. Oh, this will be the day that I die. There we were all in one place, a generation lost in space. No time left to start again. So come on, Jack, be nimble, Jack, be quick, Jack. Flash sat on a candlestick. His fire is the devil's only prey. And as I watched him on the stage, my hands were clenched in fists of rage. No angel born in hell would break that Satan's spell. And as the flames climbed high into the night to light the sacrificial rite, saw Satan laughing with delight. The day the music died, he was singing bye bye, Miss American Pie. I drove a Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye and singing, this will be the day that I die. Oh, this will be the day that I die. Met a girl who sang the blues, and I asked her for some happy news, but she just smiled, turned away. I went down to the sacred store where I'd heard the music years before, but the man there said the music wouldn't play. But in the streets the children screamed, the lovers cried, and the poets dreamed, but not a word was spoken. Church bells all were broken, and the 3 men I admire most, the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, well, they caught the last train for the coast. The day the music died, and they were singing, so bye bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye, singing, this'll be the day that I die. Yeah, this'll be the day that I die. So bye bye, Miss American Pie. Drove a Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys were drinking whiskey and rye, Well, there you have it, and that was, how long was that sucker? That was, it's 8.5 minutes or so. Hey there, how you doing there, PJ? Hello, Anna, how are you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you there. Yeah, that was quite a song there, wasn't it? So that song has been very popular since the olden times. Sorry, I dropped some pages here. And Don McLean's didn't have as much popularity with other songs, but he was quite a good artist. You can Google him and see he was all through the 70s and so forth. So for 10 years, hey, back in those days, if you can have a few hits, you made it. There was a guy called, if you want to Google, Freddie Fender, and he had one big hit, Wasted Days and Wasted Nights, and that was the biggest song, and he said that song, made it so when he has his pinto beans and rice, he can have a little steak with it every night. It made his life. There's another song, and it has Jesus in the song, but it's not a spiritual song, it's more of a pop song. I can't remember that. I'll have to look that one up. He bought a house and paid for it in his retirement, one song. So that was back in the olden days. These days it's a little tougher to do that, but you can make a good living working at it. So let's talk a little bit about this song and about what it's about. For many years it was a mystery. They did know it was one thing. In 1959, there was a plane crash, and it took three very popular artists. In fact, it was kind of it was the past, the future, and the present of what was called rock and roll, because people listened to really different kind of music. If you'll Google stuff from the 40s, it was in 50s, it was Sinatra and standards, and I love that music, and I sing that music, and that music's made money for me. But when rock and roll hit, really Elvis kind of brought it to the front, but there's many other artists that were popular there. One was called the Big Bopper. He was a kind of a holdover from that past. And then you had Buddy Holly, who was really did some super popular songs of the present. And who was the other guy? La Bamba. He did La Bamba. I'll think of his name in a minute. I had it at the tip of my tongue. But he was a very important figure as well in all this. And let me see if I can grab my other thing here. Crazy, I can't remember his name. I had it all remembered for this, but you get old. So Richie Valens, that's it, Richie Valens, and he was a Latino star, which was a big thing back then. It was all very white bread. But he was kind of the present and the future. Him and Buddy Holly both, but Buddy Holly was a little more established. Richie Valens came in and sang some songs, and so the three of them were very big, and it was kind of like, now I'm not comparing these people, but as far as how they where they were in people's eyes and in the music industry's eyes, it would be like if Justin Timberlake and Justin Bieber, a lot of Justins, and maybe who's someone that's been around a while, Drake. Drake's huge. Drake's the biggest streamer. I don't know that they were the biggest, but somebody like that. They all got in a plane. They got in a little bitty plane. They were tired of being on the road. At that time, you had to drive in a car or a bus. And back in the olden times, there was no catalytic converter on cars. The tailpipe would make you sick. And I remember that part back in the 70s when I remember was a little kid. And this song came out. I was 8 years old or whatever when this song came out. But I remember it because back then a hit would be played for years. I guess they do that now, not quite as much as they did back then. But there were fewer hits. There were bigger hits. There were fewer because there was only one or two outlets for it. But anyway, they got tired of traveling hotel food and staying in hotels and things, and there were no cell phones. It was tough to make a phone call back then, and things. You couldn't stay in touch with your family, so they decided to take a plane to a certain, I don't know if they were going home or going to a place, and it was weather was bad, and from what I understand, the pilot, and not to harsh on the pilot, but the pilot was probably not up to the task. It was very rough weather. It was a tiny plane, like a Cessna 172, which isn't a bad thing, but it's a little bitty plane, seats like 6 people or something. They piled in it, the weather was awful, they took off and it crashed. And he wrote this song, it kind of touched him the day the music died, but it wasn't so much that. He was kind of mysterious about it for his whole life. And people were trying to say, like, the only thing they got was the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost were the 3 of them. But they had, let me scan here through these, who the jester sang for the king and queen, while Lennon read a book of Marx, the quartet practiced in the park. They didn't quite know who that was. They thought maybe it was the Beatles. Helter Skelter I think was a little bit, no, it was before that. That was some interesting tragedies that happened. Birds Fly Out Filter Sergeant played a marching tune. And so they wondered who all these people were and tried to put them in order. I don't think he's ever come out and said. He did come out a few years ago because he sold the original manuscript for over $1 million or so. And he said that, that wasn't the Beatles, and it was more of a way to talk about just the end of innocence, that plane crash really brought to an end some of the innocence of the earlier times, and the innocence of the 50s into the 60s, and so he talked a little bit about that. The 60s were a great time of social upheaval, and much like today. I have to say, I don't remember it because I was a little kid, but I remember being 10 years later, that and learning about it and so forth, and seeing its effect, and it was a big effect. Kind of like now, that's when protests were started and things like that, and so it's interesting times. It's interesting to go back and kind of see what the world may have been like then. So that's a cool song if you want to Google. It's American Pie. Madonna did a cover of it not too long ago, several years, but not too long ago, and let's see if I have what I want to do here. It was a shorter version, of course. That's like 8.5 minutes or something, and it was at the time it was the longest song that hit number 1. It hit number 1, I think, for a couple months, and then was very big overseas as well. And it stayed in the kind of culture. People kept it in their minds and kept playing it. So. Now, that's kind of social, talking about social issues, not a specific issue, I think just a general, what people would call more pop kind of stuff, or popular. Now this is, I'm going to sing Blowing in the Wind. This is by Bob Dylan. And Bob Dylan was, kind of the folk hero of everybody, talking about a lot of things about, you have to remember at this time there were really just a poor person back in the 40s and 50s were what we would call homeless now. But they didn't even have, like a lot of kids, little kids they would all wear the same dress. Even if they had a house or something, there was like 8 kids. Usually I had a lot of kids back then too. They all wore the same dress up until they were teenagers. And that same dress, a dress for the guys, the girls, didn't matter. You wore dress until you were bigger, and then you got into what are the other clothes that they had. A lot of times they didn't have clothes. And in fact, people's flour manufacturers, people used to buy flour by the 50-pound bag because that's all people ate was bread. And it was tough. It took a long time to make bread. I used to watch my grandma make it on a wood stove. And it would take hours for her to make enough bread for the day. And bread only lasted a day, and you couldn't go to the store and get bread. They didn't have that back in the olden times. and you made everything yourself. You didn't go to Home Depot and get the supplies. You used whatever you had and could barter. So they would actually, the flour companies and the feed companies for like feed for your animals and things started printing on the bags. They used canvas. They would print pretty things or stripes and things, and the people would actually use those and sew clothes, and that's what people wore. That's a poor person. That's like a person today that might make $100,000. That's what they were. And then there was just people who had something. So the richest people then would be like the poorest middle class, somebody who just barely has a house and has a 20-year-old car, a clunker, and they don't eat out and that kind of thing. And a lot of people are doing that now because of COVID. That's what the largest part of the population was in these times. And so social change and injustice meant a lot of things, and I guess it's all coming back around, come to think of it. And I'm not making any judgments, I'm just saying that's how it is. So here we go. Now, so this is a little bit different. This is kind of the folksy troubadour kind of song. I'll do this one. We're running in time here, but that's okay. And this is called Blowing in the Wind by Bob Dylan. How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? Yes, and how many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? How many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? Well, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many years must a mountain exist before it's washed to the sea? And how many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? How many times can a man turn his head while pretending he just doesn't see? Oh, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? Yes, and how many years must a one man have before he can hear people cry? Yes, and how many days will it take till he knows that too many people have died? Oh, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Oh, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Thank you, thank you. That's a little different of a song, isn't it? That actually the lyrics, when I say the lyrics, the actual writing, wherever they wrote it, sold for, over 2 million for that song. Not to pass judgment, I just think that Bob Dylan is ingrained a little more as more of a folksy singer. Don McLean was a little more in the pop vein. Not that one's better than the other, anything but just as far as people's perception. I'm just looking at what we've got, the new generation. What have we got? Some songs that change here. I'm looking. Nope, they ain't got that going on. Just looking to see what the, there's a lot, so a little crazy here. Just five contemporary. No, that's musical theater songs. Oh, it says to inspire, freedom, watch me soar, changing my mind. Yeah, I don't know. I know we've got some, Man in the Mirror. That was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Oh my God, a long time ago. Waiting for the World to Make a Change. There's a lot of new songs out there. They're bringing back some other songs. I'll look that up and do that. I've done songs that changed, but they're all kind of been around a while, which, that's okay, but it'd be nice to see something new. And I know they're there, I'm a little crazy about it. I'm a little, what do you call it? I'm a little ignorant of it, but anyway. John Mayer did Waiting for the World to Make a Change, but I think that's a retake. That song's about change. Let's see what people say. Man in the Mirror changes. David Bowie, The Times, Landslide, yeah. Change is going to come bittersweet. Let's see. The Watchtower, but that's way super old. Yeah, I'll have to look those up. I know they're out there, and I know they'd be worth doing. But anyway, that's what we got. I think I'm going to cut that tonight. That's almost 30 minutes. Crazy talk. Well, one song was 10 minutes long, and I did do your other song. I'm going to look up some songs of modern change. If you know any that you know of or like, please send them to me. I'll be glad to sing them and take a look at them. I know Peace Train and, there's a lot of ones out there, but I don't know any that have been written very lately, so I'm going to figure that out. So thank you. I'm Tony.